The future of Halo Infinite looks and sounds extremely bright. However, the lack of answers and the sheer amount of questions the game's ending left us with, I think we could be in for a long strand of content in order to flesh out all of the unanswered questions that we might have. Not forgetting that Infinite is supposed to be a 10-year game, meaning if the campaign's DLC was regular, we should expect to have a cliffhanger pretty much every single DLC, and potentially a multitude of additional unanswered questions, which I hope not, but it looks like it could go that way. But in today's video, I wanted to discuss and go into some detail around the DLC in Halo Infinite and what we should expect to see, and theorise a little bit around what I want to see and what you guys want to see. Make sure you leave your thoughts and theories in the comments down below, and let me know what you think and what you want to see within Halo Infinite's campaign DLC, because really, there are endless possibilities as to what 343 might throw at us, with all of the throwback characters available to pull people back into the storyline that I know a lot of people want to see back into the game. But don't forget guys to drop a like on today's video. It'd be much appreciated if you do go on to enjoy it, and of course subscribe if you are brand new around here to the channel. Also, we do content pretty much every single day, so if you want to see more, make sure you guys do stick around on the channel for that. And if you want to be notified when a video does go live, why not ring the notification bell just above the like button? It's of course free to do, and you'll be notified every time a video does go live. And how can I forget, we have now got a community Discord server. It's completely free to join. If you go down below in the description, you'll see the link there. You can click onto it and it'll take you to the application which you can join the server. The first 100 people to join that server will be entered automatically into a giveaway whereby we give you some free multiplayer credits for Halo. It's simple as that, and yeah, it's a really good place to keep track of what's going on in the community and have discussions and theories about new things coming to Halo, and yeah, just have discussions on there between us all. But yeah, without further ado guys, let's get straight into the video. To begin with, I want to start by discussing what we can expect to see in some of the Halo Infinite campaign DLCs, things that lead directly on from the Infinite storyline, to other things which are more of a throwback but could make a very well received return. Now, to put it out there, I have discussed the DLC very briefly in a couple of videos that I've done on the channel and what I think would make a great DLC addition. Some controversial decisions involving the pilot, but others a little safer but still really engaging. In my opinion, I wouldn't be expecting anything drastic in the first DLC. I think that it will do a great job of fleshing out a lot of the unanswered questions that we had from the base game, how Atriox survived, who the Endless are, if offensive bias is in the game, and the Endless being immune to the Flood and why they're worse than the Flood. All of this will 100% be fleshed out, because if 343 don't, I think the backlash will outweigh the positive feedback, no matter how good the gameplay is. I think we'll understand a lot more around Atriox and why the Banished think that he's dead as well. I mean, we don't have any information or canon on this yet, but I can only presume that it's because of the explosion. And once the explosion took place and Cortana destroyed the Silent Auditorium with Atriox inside it, they didn't hear back from Atriox. So on the back of that, they presumed he was dead. I can only imagine that that was why they believe he's dead. There's no actual reason that no one's seen his body or anything like that, but it'd be interesting to understand that in more detail and have some official details around, because it could be really helpful to piecing the story together and understanding how Atriox freed the Endless. For DLC 2, I think that it will again flesh out a lot of details and potentially start with venturing out a little bit more. As mentioned, I think DLC 1 will just be there to fill in the base game story gaps and give us more closure around the questions that we have. But DLC 2 will be where the full story expansion begins, and similar to the legendary ending for the base game, I do think that DLC 1 will have a teaser for something big coming to DLC 2. For example, the capturing of a key character, the introduction of a key character or fan-loved character, the Arbiter maybe? Even the ones less fan-loved but have way more potential than portrayed in previous games, such as Spartan Locke, Blue Team, Alpha 9, even members of Fireteam Osiris. If you're looking for a full story expansion and new characters to return in DLC 1, it could happen, but it's going to be very unlikely and you might be disappointed with the outcome if that's the expectation that you're going into it with. I mean, we don't even know who the Endless are at this point, the main faction in the new era of Halo, so until they're completely fleshed out and we've had the gaps filled, I don't think we should expect anything else or anyone we already know coming back into the game until at least DLC 2. I do think the Flood are going to be back in, say, DLC 3. I don't think they'll be in 1 and I don't think they'll be in 2. I think if they are going to be fleshed out, they need an entire DLC to themselves, and I just think there's too much going on at the moment and too many gaps that need to be filled in to just throw the Flood into the mix with things. And again, even more questions will be asked around that. I think DLC 1, as we've mentioned, it needs to be just fleshing out the unanswered questions that we've got, and not really introducing anyone new until we fully understand everything that's happened from the very start of Halo Infinite until that point. We also then in DLC 2, that's where we start expanding the story a little bit more, and that's where we can maybe bring back a couple of characters, maybe we bring the Arbiter back, maybe Sergeant Locke comes into the mix, stuff along those lines, and then we expand the story that way, and that's where we understand more around Atriox, the Banished, what they're doing on the ring, how they met with Cortana, things along those lines, how they knew about the weapon, these different things that we need to really know. And then DLC 3, that's where there's going to be a teaser at the end of DLC 2 going into 3, maybe around similar to the Halo 2 legendary ending where we see High Charity completely flood infested, and maybe something similar is going to happen in DLC 3. DLC 3 starts and it's a complete clusterfuck of just pure flood the entire way through, and I think that's how it needs to be. I don't think that the flood can be a small part of a DLC. I think the flood need to have an entire DLC just to themselves, and then of course be a part of the game moving forward. But let me know what you think down below in the comments of that, guys. But for me, that's, if I was doing it, that's how I would do it. And I think if the flood were only in a game for an hour, or a DLC for an hour, I think everyone would kick off and want more flood. So yeah, the flood definitely need a dedicated DLC. I don't think it'll be until 1 or 2. I think it will be rather in 3 or 4. So let me know in the comments what you think. Moving on to my next point though, how will DLC actually work in Halo Infinite? As mentioned previously, I think the first DLCs will flesh out our unanswered questions and then begin the story expansion. But will the DLCs only be relating to the Chief and the story? Could 343 expand the story even further and give us the perspective of other people in the universe that were a part of the experience of Halo Infinite? Well, I don't know about you guys, but I would love to see a DLC from a Marine's perspective or even an ODST aboard the UNSC Infinity at the time when they were infiltrated and under attack by the Banished, and the ones that even landed on Zeta Halo and managed to evacuate successfully. Learning about their struggles, trying to save their comrades who were under attack on the Infinity and, of course, on Zeta Halo, and even the struggle of getting from the Infinity to Zeta Halo on a Pelican, trying to get to the lifeboats or trying to get to a Pelican that was last in the boarding bay or anything like that. Just the struggle of understanding what it was like at the time, understanding the atmosphere and how they felt at the time, and just having that dialogue and the different perspectives from people in the universe, I think is so important for an engaging story. And I think the DLCs really do open up a door for that sort of dialogue and different bits, and finding audio logs along the way as well, and different things to add to that story. I think it'd make for a really engaging one. So let me know what you think down below, guys, but I would love a Marine or ODST type of story come to Halo Infinite as a DLC. On the back of this as well, adding like a stealth mechanic to the DLC and allowing us to traverse through the ring as ODSTs in a stealth mode if needed, and that would be so cool to see. Even just having the dialogue and the story from their eyes, and bearing in mind an ODST is not an overpowered Spartan with an overshield. They don't have a grapple or they can't throw down a deployable shield. They're humans in a suit of ODST armor. They need to be careful and really consider their approach to gunfights. Just imagine a mission in this ODST DLC where you've been notified that in a Banished camp there are multiple Marines or ODSTs that are captured in a facility or in sort of a force field or something along those lines, where you need to go in there and try and save them. The only way to do it is there's too many of them, so you can't just go in there guns blazing. You've got to go in there stealth. So you can sneak past everyone, you can assassinate or quietly take down people on the way, but if you're spotted, you're pretty much dead. You need to do it stealth. Stuff like that would be so good. You get in, you get out, you don't really know about it. Again, you're not a super soldier, you don't need to go guns blazing with things like that. It's more of a human touch to things. Just adding little bits like this to the story, in my opinion, would make it so much more engaging, and it would just add to the overall experience of the different perspectives when this war took place. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. Another DLC I would like to see is also a Spartan DLC. This for me is knocking on the door. We go through the campaign and find multiple armor upgrades from other Spartans which had been slain by a Spartan. Picture this. We have a DLC where we play as 4 fallen Spartans, and of course your death is guaranteed in order for it to link with the story, but it shows how they died and gives context to their in-game characters and lore, rather than just finding them and listening to 15 seconds of dialogue and then moving on. we should really understand who these Spartans are. There was a reason why 343 gave us this dialogue in terms of these characters, and why they gave us this little bit of a backstory about them. I do think that this is opening the door for a DLC coming in the future, and potentially we have one DLC where we play as all 4 of these fallen Spartans, and potentially we have a single DLC where we go through the mix of all of these Spartans, go from their experience on the UNSC Infinity and how they infiltrated and evac to Zeta Halo, and how they came across the Spartan killer which slayed them. I just think this would be really interesting and really engaging, and it would just add to the experience. Again, as I mentioned, having the perspectives of different people and different beings within this universe and listening to their stories, and because we come across them in the base game, having their different perspectives in the story would make things so much more clear, and you never know, they could hold really important pieces of lore and information around the storyline that we have questions to at the moment. So fleshing stuff like that out would be really cool in my opinion. One more DLC that I would absolutely love to see come to Halo Infinite is a little bit different to the others, but I think it could be really cool, and again, expand on the story massively. A Banished DLC. Similar to Halo Wars 2, where we see the perspective of the Banished, how they were formed, and the backstory around them. I'd love to see this done a little bit more. I would love to have a DLC where I'm a brute and I'm infiltrating the UNSC Infinity, and after being given a really motivating war speech from my brute war chieftain, me and my convoy are on a Phantom and we're going towards the ship. We infiltrate the ship together and we go through and try and take out all the Marines, or try and find the weapon. That is the objective. Find the weapon and return back to the Phantom for extraction. That could be it. We search the whole ship, we go through it, we go to the boarding dock, and then we go to the deck. The weapon's not there. Where is it? We capture a crew member of the UNSC Infinity which tells us the location of Captain Lasky and the Spartans which have the weapon, and then we're on a mission to find them. We have to scale the Infinity and try and find the weapon before it extracts. And just for that, listening to the dialogue along the way and having the cutscenes and things would give us really good context around the Banished's motivations and how they come to learn around the weapon, how this is going to help them, and again, just to go into more detail around their motivation to take over Zeta Halo and the Atriox's plan. I think stuff like this, it's really helpful to flesh out the story, and it would just be so sick to play as a brute or even an elite, a part of the Banished. That would be really cool as well. Let me know again, as I mentioned, what you think in the comments down below of all this stuff. But for me, it's not really about just playing as the Chief and the weapon in the DLCs. It's about expanding the story and having the perspective from different people in that story, in that universe, because the Chief and the weapon and other UNSC crew members have their perspectives. But what about the ODSTs? What about the Spartans that were captured or that were killed? What about the people that tried to extract, which didn't extract? They were infiltrated, that were captured, the Marines that were captured that we save in the FOBs. Stuff like this, like these are the things that we would love to have different perspectives around, and love to have the information as to how it happened and what happened to them, and just the sick nature of the Banished and what they could be like. Even Lucas Browning, how he was captured and forced to open the Silex for the Harbinger. How was that done? We don't have the information on how he was captured or the experience that he went through. Why was he going insane when the Harbinger spoke to him? Again, we don't know this information right now, but this stuff would be amazing DLC content. Even if it's not a fully fledged DLC and all of this can be compiled into one single DLC as like a spin-off DLC, I think that would be great. And again, after that we can continue with Chief's story, but just having these different perspectives would be great for the overall storyline. Finally, how should we expect the DLC to be released? The overall map of Zeta Halo would remain the exact same potentially, with just new missions and objectives scattered throughout, but this Zeta Halo world would expand over time. So come DLC 3 or DLC 4, the world might look different. If the Flood take over the ring, it could reflect that. We could have Flood stuff everywhere, you know, the Flood could infect all of the factions. We could have everything covered all over the walls, all over the mountains, all over the rocks. The sky could go green. The potential that we have for DLC in this game is really exciting to me actually, and I don't think they'll go down the path of just releasing a DLC pack and that'll be it for a year. I do think they're going to go down the live service route with this campaign, which for me is a Halo player's dream. Having updates every 3 months regularly, not potentially just having like full campaigns every 3 months, because that's just not feasible to do, but maybe every year we have a new story, and that's where the new campaign storyline carries on. But every 3 months, we have an expansion to what we have already. So there's a yearly DLC release, so DLC 1, DLC 2, DLC 3 will be a yearly, but throughout that yearly cycle, we have every 3 months or so, we have like a different season in that campaign, and each season will give us new information leading up to that next DLC, but it's playable stuff. So we have new objectives, we have different storylines, different missions, even if it's 1 or 2 missions every couple of months, just something to keep us engaged and going back. So it might not be completely a new map every DLC, but it will most likely be all content on the same map, and then have it change and evolve over time just to tell us that story and to see how the world changes in front of our eyes. And every DLC and every update brings a change to the ring that leaves us discussing or leaves us wondering, okay, well, what's caused that and what's next, but leaves clues around the ring as to what potentially it could be. I think this ring will evolve over time, and I think that 343 are going to go down this live service route for the campaign rather than just giving us campaign DLC every year, because that could be a long wait. But of course, guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below on this approach, or just generally what you think the DLC is going to be like in Halo Infinite. For me, it makes sense and suits the live service model for Infinite, and also gives us regular updates and information around the story expansion and what to expect next, even if it's just additional audio logs that are added to the game, or extra things that we can go into the Zeta Halo ring and try and find. Stuff like this would be great for adding to the story and keeping that mystery around the game, and giving us little bits of information around the next upcoming DLC or next entrail into the story. Just whatever they can do to keep the campaign engaging, and just to make sure that we want to keep jumping back on playing it. There's only so much campaign you can play once you've played and completed all of it, and I really don't want this to go stale in the eyes of the community. So 343, anything you can do right now, that would be amazing, and if this is the way that you're going to do it, I'm really looking forward to DLC. But guys, that's all for today. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you have, be sure to drop a like on it, it'd be much appreciated, and subscribe and turn notifications on if you are brand new to stay up to date when a video does go live. And of course, don't forget to check out the links in the description to the community Discord server. The first 100 people to join will be entered into a giveaway for some Halo multiplayer credits. So guys, have a great rest of your day. Speak to you all soon.